Important update about YouTube playlists. Hey everyone. We've received many messages asking why our YouTube playlists aren't showing up. Do we create YouTube playlists? Yes, we absolutely do. So why can't you see them? Honestly, we're not sure. We've been in contact with YouTube support for several months now, but we still haven't received a clear answer or solution. After much discussion, our team has decided to take matters into our own hands. We believe the issue might be related to the number of playlists we've created on a single channel, possibly too many. Our solution? We're launching 2 additional YouTube channels, giving us a total of 3. This way, we can organize our audiobooks better and avoid the playlist visibility issue in the future. This change only affects our YouTube audience. If you're a patron supporter, you can still access all our audiobooks by visiting the collection menu on Patreon. Thanks so much for your time and continued support. Happy listening. It looked like a movie, though the quality was poor. As if it had been pirated in a movie theater. Even so, the bustling street scenes in the video left Yahweh stunned for a long while. This was the old world? She asked. Yeah. Luzin sighed. It's beautiful. Yahweh said softly. Yeah, it really is. Luzin smiled, shut down the computer, stood up, and turned back to look at Yahweh with a smile. It's okay. We're doing pretty well now too. Look, we've got a car, an air conditioner, rice, vegetables, and even meat. Now we've got a computer too. Can watch movies and listen to music. Life's not bad at all. Yahweh listened to Luzin and quickly adjusted her mindset, nodding to show agreement. Seeing this, Luzin thought to himself, Yahweh really is something. She can bounce back so fast. And me too. I'm pretty impressive. He said, let's go. Let's carry the computer back to the car. Before we set off, we've got something fun to pass the time with. This is some good stuff. Chapter 67, Enrich Daily Life, Improve Mental State. There wasn't much space left in Yahweh's car, and under normal circumstances, Luzin definitely wouldn't have brought the computer on board. But since they had to wait here until the cold wave passed, squeezing in the computer for some entertainment was still doable. There was a dust-covered power strip in the station building office. Luzin opened it with a screwdriver and cleaned out the dust, then gave it a test. Once the power strip was plugged into the socket on Dogsy's back, the red indicator light lit up, proving it still worked. Electronics in this world were seriously impressive. Able to hold out this long and still not short out from dust. It made one wonder if they were all apocalypse-only products. Luzin brought both the power strip and the computer into the car. The strip was plugged into Dogsy's back, with the air conditioner, the tower, and the monitor all connected to it. That way, they could enjoy the AC while using the computer. He stuffed the computer tower under the driver's seat and sat cross-legged in the car. He tried placing the monitor on the center console and fiddled with it until it balanced. With that, everything barely fit. After all, the computer was just for short-term fun. When it was time to leave, they'd just toss it out. So now, before throwing away this rare entertainment device, they were going to enjoy it to the fullest. But just as he finished setting things up, Yahweh said, it's not convenient for you to have it there. If something happens and you need to drive, it'll waste time. Why not put it here with me? It won't get in your way. Luzin glanced at Yahweh's long legs and said, but your legs are so long. Sitting cross-legged must be uncomfortable. Yahweh also looked at Luzin's legs. Yours aren't short either. I'm fine. Alright then. Luzin didn't insist. What she said did make sense. He handed the tower to Yahweh and adjusted the wiring in the process. While sorting things out, Luzin casually asked, I was planning to toss the computer when we leave. Are you trying to keep it? Yahweh looked at the tower at her feet and the monitor in the middle and said, if it's necessary. Luzin said, what does that mean? If we're talking purely survival, this stuff is useless. But if it's about enriching daily life and improving mental state, this thing's pretty helpful. Mainly for the videos and songs. Do you need to enrich your daily life and improve your mental state? Yahweh thought for a moment and said, don't know. She honestly didn't really understand. What did it mean to enrich daily life? What did it mean to improve mental state? Luzin gave her a sidelong glance, sighed, and said, I think I do need some enrichment and improvement. This world was just too lonely. The environment was brutal, and it made people feel on the verge of collapse. Luzin felt he was doing pretty well. And that anyone still alive in this world was impressive, including the wolf gang, dog gang, even that Fozzie kid. Being able to endure in a world like this was no easy feat. And of course, there was Yahweh. She was even more impressive. But no matter how tough someone was, no matter how well they held it together, if there was a better way to relax their mind, Luzin still wanted to try it. The good thing was, the cables on this computer were pretty long, including the keyboard and mouse cords. Putting the tower under Yahweh's front passenger seat didn't affect dragging the keyboard and mouse over. He placed them a bit further back on the center console. A twist of the waist and a turn of his upper body, and Luzin could operate them. If he wanted to type or play games, it'd be uncomfortable. But since the computer didn't have any games and he didn't need to type much, simple operations like opening a video or a song wouldn't be a problem. Once everything was ready, Luzin turned on the air conditioner first, then powered up the tower and the monitor. After moving it from the gas station to the car, the computer still booted up fine. The startup time hadn't changed either, but it still made them wait several minutes. It wasn't until the car was fully warmed by the AC that the computer finally gave a whir and showed the screen. Yahweh watched the monitor curiously, waiting for Luzin to demonstrate how to enrich daily life and improve mental state. Luzin twisted his waist toward the mouse and keyboard to start using the computer. At this point, the keyboard wasn't all that useful. Mostly the mouse. Without a proper mouse pad, using the mouse was a pain. Dragging it across an uneven surface made the cursor glitchy and slow. Back in his previous life, if the situation couldn't be improved, Luzin probably would have smashed the mouse by now. But now, he had plenty of patience, slowly nudging the cursor onto the icon he wanted to click. "Should we listen to music or watch a video?" he asked Yahweh while operating the mouse. Yahweh asked, "What's the difference?" Luzin said, "Listening to music means no visuals, just sound. Like a radio. But instead of people talking, it's all songs. I looked earlier. These are all tracks, like I send you off 1,000 miles away kind of stuff." He explained to Yahweh, and to help her understand, casually saying a line. For a moment, he felt a bit nostalgic. It had been ages since he'd heard that song. Now it was gone forever. He wondered what music in this world was like. Would it have a sound he liked? Truth was, he was kind of tone deaf and didn't sing very well. But Yahweh didn't seem to notice. In fact, she looked at Luzin in surprise, clearly impressed that he could sing a line or two. Seeing her admiring expression, Luzin felt a little embarrassed and went on, "As for video, it's like the one I played earlier. Though that one was pirated and blurry. Not much fun to watch. If we're going to watch something, let's try another and see if there's anything clearer and more interesting." Yahweh nodded, thought for a bit, and said, "Then let's try a video first." "Alright, video it is." Luzin smiled and said, "If you feel like resting later, we'll see if there's some soothing music. If there is, falling asleep to music is actually a kind of enjoyment." Yahweh nodded. Though honestly, she didn't quite understand what kind of enjoyment that was supposed to be. Luzin then started operating the mouse and opened the video folder to browse the files. That folder had tons of videos, with no subfolders. He glanced at the number in the lower left corner. 698 in total. Luzin had a hunch that maybe the people who used to live here had saved them up, planning to use them once the apocalypse came. And now the apocalypse had come. Just the people using them had changed. Chapter 68, watching the video that was the first one just now. How about we watch the second one in order? If it's also a blurry pirated copy, we'll just skip to the third. Luzin asked. He actually already knew what Yahweh's answer would be. Definitely. But he still wanted to ask. Somehow, it just felt right to ask Yahweh, no matter what. Sure enough, that's how Yahweh responded. Luzin chuckled and clicked on the second video in the folder. The video's title was Late Autumn, and it looked like some kind of artsy film. To be honest, Luzin kind of wanted to watch a brainless popcorn flick to let loose a bit, but going through the files one by one was too much of a hassle, so he gave up. What if the popcorn flick was buried hundreds of files deep? Or maybe, in this world, the entertainment industry just put all their skill points into artsy stuff and never learned how to shoot an action blockbuster. If that were the case, wouldn't he be wasting his time? Click. Play. The video popped up in the media player. The screen went black for a second, then a picture appeared. It was a cityscape with the big characters Late Autumn in the center. Next to Late Autumn, there was a smaller line of text that said, "Produced by Yellow Company." Sounded more like a beverage brand or something. Luzin had no idea what kind of film company would name itself that. Also, showing both the movie title and production company name right at the start? Pretty unusual. But the background music was actually quite nice. Calm and warm. The computer's player had aged from disuse, so the sound coming from the speakers was pretty distorted. But for Luzin and Yahweh, it was already more than good enough. Luzin explained to Yahweh, "What you're hearing now is music. The other player and the stuff in that folder are the kind you can only listen to but not watch, and the tune's different from this one." Yahweh thought for a bit and asked, "Is this good for sleeping?" Luzin replied, "Depends on the person. Some people like falling asleep to music, some like silence, and others fall asleep listening to crosstalk. Crosstalk. Yao had stumbled upon another word she'd never heard before. It's two people standing there, talking and making people laugh. Luzin gave the simplest and most direct explanation. Oh. Yao gave a little oh and didn't say anything else. But in her heart, she didn't quite get it. How could anyone sleep while being made to laugh? Not sure if there's any crosstalk in here. Luzin muttered. But he wasn't hopeful. Maybe this world didn't even have crosstalk anymore. He talked while double-clicking a mouse to make the video full screen. The computer's controls all lined up with what Luzin was used to, which he found pretty satisfying. The movie now filled the entire monitor. The screen shifted to an indoor scene. Light wooden furniture, a cozy living space, and a warm color palette made everything feel super comfortable. Yao watched the screen with intense focus. Even though it was just a simple transitional shot, she was totally absorbed. As if the scenery alone, both outside and inside, held endless fascination for her. How is it? Not bad, right? This is the world before the apocalypse. Comfortable, peaceful. Compared to now, it's unbelievably beautiful. Luzin said with a sigh. He hadn't seen something like this in ages. It really made him nostalgic. When he said this to Yao, he even felt a strange sense of pride, like he was showing off. I used to live in a world like that. Yao nodded at his words. Seeing her so focused and clearly impressed, Luzin felt a twinge of smugness. But then he quickly shook the feeling out of his head. What good was pride in the past? He was living in the post-apocalyptic world now. Everything from before was already gone. He wasn't some stubborn relic of the old world. He couldn't let himself be stuck in the past. Click. In the video, the door to the room opened, and in walked a woman in a beige turtleneck and a tight black skirt, curvy and kind of exaggerated up top. She had long, wavy hair and a gentle smile. The picture-perfect image of a housewife. She tossed the purse from her shoulder onto the shoe cabinet, said something to whoever was outside the door, then reached out to pull someone in. In came a younger man. Wait a minute. This scene. The way the plot was unfolding. Why did it feel so freaking familiar? Luzin's heart skipped a beat. He quickly glanced at Yao beside him. Yao was still watching intently. Her gaze was locked on the woman in the video, and she seemed kind of envious. Those soft, glossy waves, that flawless skin untouched by the harsh environment. All of it hit Yao hard. The two people in the video started talking. Sure enough, the conversation was completely pointless, like an older woman coaxing a younger guy. Luzin. Yup. He was right. This movie was not wholesome. Damn it, why would a sketchy movie have such a serious-sounding title? How the hell was that supposed to attract the right audience or tell you what kind of movie it was? Wanna switch to another one? He blurted out, already reaching for the mouse. But Yao said, why? This one's nice. She really thought it was nice. The visuals were so clean and comfortable. Nice. Luzin's hand was on the mouse. He double-clicked to shrink the screen and said, this one's kind of low quality. If we're gonna watch something, let's pick a good one. But Yao held his hand down, eyes glued to the screen. No need. Let's watch this one first. If I see a better one, I might not be able to enjoy this kind again later. Luzin. Looks like she really planned to keep the computer in the car, even if it meant giving up legroom and sitting cross-legged. But that wasn't the main issue right now. The issue was that in the video, the woman with the wavy hair had already made her move. Pushing the young man up against the wall. Chomp. Luzin. Yao. Now she finally understood what was going on. Her hand jerked back like she'd been shocked. The moment she saw that, she thought of the manga Luzin had shown her back at the shelter. And instantly felt uncomfortable. In the video, the two had swapped roles. The young guy was now the one pinning the wavy-haired woman to the wall. The woman leaned back against the wall, passionate and focused. The screen's color tone got even warmer as things heated up. Warmer and warmer. Switch it, now. Yao's voice was a little stiff, her tone weirdly tense. She hadn't even been this nervous during a gunfight. Chapter 69, Countdown of the Stars. Yao had already let go of Luzin's hand. She could still feel the warmth lingering in her palm. If it had been before, she wouldn't have thought anything of it. But now, the manga's scenes were still echoing in her mind, and the video's battle was getting more intense. Just watching it, you could tell it was heading the same way as the manga. Something instantly felt off. The lingering warmth in her palm seemed to get hotter and hotter, like it was burning her, bit by bit. She snuck a quick glance at Luzin. He was moving the mouse toward the X in the top corner of the video. But his expression. Why did it look like he was a little reluctant? You still want to watch it? She asked. Luzin looked at her, a bit surprised. It was rare to hear Yao stumble over her words. Even when she heard that hyenas would rip open butts, she hadn't gotten this nervous. Seeing her eyes darting away, Luzin chuckled to himself. This woman might not have those big waves, but she was way prettier than the woman in the video. Easy on the eyes and shy like this? Luzin couldn't help but steal a few more glances. He said, "Nah, not watching. This kind of stuff, watch too much of it and it messes with your body. Not worth the trouble." Even though that's what he said, he still felt a little bummed. Before the action really ramped up, he could still resist. But after watching a bit more, his interest had already been piqued. Turning it off now felt like a bit of a loss. Still, it had to be turned off. For one, Yao clearly didn't get what was going on yet. Feeding her this kind of stuff was seriously not okay. And more importantly, she didn't understand it now, but once she did. And if she noticed he was reacting physically, she might panic or get angry and shoot him in the, well, critical parts. What then? Her shooting skills were terrifying. And he didn't exactly have a copy of Sunflower Manual or Evil Repelling Swordplay to fall back on. Even if she didn't shoot, if she got flustered and came at him hard, he wasn't in any state to fend her off. Forget it, better switch. So, should we look for another movie, or just listen to some music? Luzin opened the folder again and asked. Yao didn't think too much. She just said, "Let's listen to music." Sure. Luzin said as he opened the folder with the music files. There were quite a few tracks in there. Just like with the videos, Luzin simply started with the first song. But when he saw the title, he paused for a second. The song was called Countdown of the Stars. Kind of sounded symbolic. Click. Play. Luzin reclined the seat back, pushed it as far back as it would go, and lay down. Yao followed his lead, but her legs couldn't stretch out properly. Luzin pointed to the workbench in front and said, "Just rest your legs up there." Oh. Yao did as he said, stretched her legs out, and placed them on the workbench. She ended up looking like a wide-open V. Luzin couldn't help thinking. This woman's legs were really long. Even wearing such wide-legged pants, you could still tell how long and shapely they were. And her feet. Nice shape, too. The song had already started. The intro was long. Sad yet somehow stirring. Luzin folded his hands behind his head and used them as a pillow. As he listened, the lyrics finally kicked in. When the seventh wound tears through the ionosphere, the last signal tower dies out in the storm, we count our heartbeats to calibrate the coordinates of time, standing around the impact crater, guarding this glass sphere. The flashlight's beam pierces the asphalt cloud, strangers seal steel fractures with an embrace. The supermarket shelves have tilted into Noah's Ark, painkillers packed into drifting bottles. So, it really was about that era. Another stretch of instrumental followed. Luzin couldn't tell if this was describing the arrival of the apocalypse or some pre-apocalyptic fantasy. All the bank accounts burned in the wind, dashes rising into silver stars, rusty watch gears biting into each other, gnawing at the whimpers seeping from the horizon, millions of hands tearing through the long night, fingerprints stacked into mountains, challenging collapsing time with questions, collarbones blooming in moonlight. On the edge of civilization's collapse, we shaped ourselves into a new world. By this point, the sorrow seemed to give way to a kind of heroic determination, like it was trying to break free. Children use crayons to edit satellite maps, skyscraper roots grow wild toward the Earth's core, pages in the library grow scales swimming like glowing ribbons in the cold, ribs torn out and turned into torches lighting every letter never sent, let the ashes float in synchronous orbit, kiss the sun before it freezes. Then the verses and choruses started repeating. Sounds good? Luzin asked. Yao nodded. She followed Luzin's pose, resting her hands behind her head. As the music played, her eyes stayed wide open, staring blankly at the car ceiling. Maybe the song had stirred something in her. What are you thinking about? Luzin asked. But Yao said, I don't know. After those 3 words, she thought for a moment and added, were they encouraging each other through the song? Luzin was a little surprised. You picked up on that? Yao said, kind of. Maybe. But I'm not sure. Sounds like it. Luzin replied. Though if you wanted to call it encouragement, the song felt more like a search for warmth and connection in the apocalypse. He thought to himself, in those days, the apocalypse probably happened in several phases. That water delivery guy in Fengzheng County had said everyone was kept in the dark, but the disaster in the song seemed to be widely known. Still, the song was pretty fragmented and metaphorical. Luzin wanted to dig a bit more, see if there were any other clues in it about the world that used to be. It's so nice. Yao said. Luzin sat up and started searching through the playlist. The mouse scroll wheel was broken, so Luzin had to drag the scroll bar on the right to browse. After a long search, he finally found a song that seemed to fit the current apocalyptic world. The title was Era of Melting Ice. Melting as in smelting, not the one for melting away. Click. Play. When the aurora swallowed the 13th port, salt grains crystallized into crystal binoculars on eyelashes. We dismantled the piano frame to feed the fireplace. Beneath the permafrost came the heartbeat of a prophetic clay jar. This song really did seem to be describing a frozen apocalypse. But the amount of actual info was still too little. Songs ultimately focused more on emotional expression than historical records. Luzin felt a bit regretful. He kept listening, hoping to catch some clues in the lyrics. All national borders melted in the cold wave. Fingerprints intertwined into a geothermal pipeline network. Petroleum became a solid black harp playing a lament from the depths of the continental shelf. We danced in absolute zero, shattering the Earth's final hibernation until all the ice crystals refracted the face of humanity when we first learned to make fire. The song ended, and Luzin let out a long, wistful sigh. Yahweh asked, "What's wrong?" Luzin said, "Nothing, just feeling a little emotional." The person singing this was really optimistic. I wonder if the people listening back then felt the same way. Chapter 70, New Humans and New Dogs. After that, Luzin searched for a few more songs, but they either had nothing to do with the apocalypse, or like the first two, focused more on emotional expression and didn't provide much valuable description of the old world. Luzin gave up on exploring the past through songs and started listening to the music properly. Oh well, he hadn't planned to explore the past through music in the first place. He just happened to hear a countdown of the stars and got a sudden idea, that's all. He laid back comfortably and quietly listened to the music with Yahweh. There were a few songs about the apocalypse in the playlist, but not too many. Looks like even in that era, these kinds of songs didn't really go mainstream. As a rock song ended, a few slow ballads followed. Luzin's consciousness gradually blurred, and before he knew it, he had fallen asleep. By the time he woke up again, it was already dark. "You're awake." Yahweh's voice felt almost dreamlike to him. If he hadn't been sure he was still in the car, he might have thought her next line would be something about a totally changed worldview. "Yeah, I fell asleep without even realizing it." Luzin sat up, rubbed his eyes, and said. The computer was still playing music. This particular song was kind of cliché. Something like "You love me, I love him, he loves you," that kind of thing. But the melody was catchy and pleasant, a real earworm that reminded him of the kind of songs that go viral on short videos. "Wanna eat now? It's rare for you to sleep this well. I was afraid I'd wake you up, so I didn't open the door to grab the meat strips," Yahweh said. She now prioritized finishing off the meat strips since their shelf life was uncertain and they needed to be dealt with before they spoiled. Luzin touched his forehead and the back of his neck, and once he confirmed he hadn't sweated in his sleep, he said, "Go ahead and grab them. I guess having you around made me subconsciously feel safe. If I'd been alone, I definitely wouldn't have slept this deeply." Yahweh replied, "I didn't do anything, really. I just kept quiet when I saw you were sleeping. You're so alert. You'd have woken up right away if there'd been a sound." Luzin wasn't sure if he was imagining things, but he thought her voice sounded slightly different just now. Was it a bit happy? Was it because of the music? Or because he said she made him feel safe? Click. The front passenger seat door opened, and a rush of cold wind poured in. Yahweh leaned out to retrieve the meat strips hanging on the iron wire mesh. The wind at night was even colder than during the day. Luzin shivered instinctively and opened the driver's side door to get the food. Carefully, they took the meat strips off the iron mesh and brought them back in. Both quickly shut the car doors. Luzin exhaled softly, and under the starlight, he could see white mist forming with his breath. "Let's warm them up by the air conditioner vent before eating, no need to rush," Luzin said as he placed his meat strips under the air vent. Yahweh had no objections and did the same with hers. After setting the meat strips down, Luzin pulled his gaze away from the air conditioner and sighed. "Thank goodness we have the air conditioner. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be able to sleep in this weather." Yahweh said, "Yeah, your whole body just feels cold. Even wrapped in clothes, it's uncomfortable." Luzin reminisced, especially the feet. Wearing shoes felt like wrapping them in ice. Yahweh nodded deeply in agreement. "Totally. But things were better now. With the air conditioner, neither of them had to wear shoes. It was nice and warm in the car. This Apocalypse special air conditioner really was amazing." Suddenly, Luzin thought of something and asked, "What do you think? How did those regular people make it through this bitter cold? Back in the day, this kind of weather would have frozen them to death, right?" Yahweh looked puzzled. "Would they really freeze to death?" Luzin said, "Of course. Why wouldn't they?" Yahweh thought for a moment. "I guess. Some probably would. But I haven't met many people, so I haven't seen it. But they seemed pretty prepared, so maybe they survived? I mean, fish frozen in ice come back to life when the ice melts, right? And those hyenas and pigs we ran into." She pointed at the meat strips under the air vent. "And this dog. Luzin. Calling the dog meat strip, this dog felt oddly abstract. But listening to Yahweh, something clicked in his mind. She might have a point. Forget the hyenas they met in that villa in Chiang district, Ubay City. Those hyenas clearly weren't normal animals. Their bite strength was terrifying, and even someone like Yahweh, a new human, had to retreat and team up with him. Those hyenas. Maybe they were new dogs. Looking back now, Luzin realized it was lucky that Yahweh was such a good shot. If those were new dogs, their vitality would have been way beyond that of normal animals. If Yahweh couldn't hit a vital spot with every shot, would those hyenas have powered through and climbed the staircase? But if hyenas were new dogs, what about the wild boars, the fish, and the current dog under the air vent? That wild boar was killed by one arrow from Yahweh, though it was a sneak attack, so maybe not a fair comparison. The fish wasn't much help either. But this dog? If it could be killed by regular people in Tongzu County who didn't even have guns, could it really be a new dog? You're right. Luzin's thoughts gradually cleared. If you're right, then even the ordinary people now are no longer the same as people before the apocalypse. Whether it's animals, plants, or humans, surviving in this kind of extreme cold is already beyond imagination. They may not be like us, not our type of new humans. But they are new humans, too. It's just that we and they, new humans and new humans, have different definitions. Yahweh didn't get confused by Luzin's logic and still followed along. She nodded while staring at the dog meat strip. To her, this question was clearly less important than the dog meat under the air vent. After warming it for a while, Luzin and Yahweh picked up the dog meat strips and had their dinner. The music kept playing, still those emotional, melodramatic songs that had nothing to do with the apocalypse. Yahweh didn't quite get it. What was so important about all that heartbreak, love, and suicidal despair? Still, even if the lyrics were nonsense, the vocals sounded pretty nice. So she lay down, pulled up the blanket, and enjoyed the melody drifting into her ears. "Why aren't you lying down?" Yahweh asked. Luzin said, "You go ahead and sleep. I just woke up. I'll keep watch for a while." Yahweh said, "No need to. I'll wake up if there's any noise." Luzin chuckled and said, "That's not the point. The point is I'm not sleepy anymore since I just had a nap. You sleep first. I'll sleep when I get tired later." "Okay." Yahweh nodded and closed her eyes. Luzin quietly watched Yahweh. After confirming her breathing had become steady and she was asleep, he leaned over, pulled a manga out of his backpack, and started reading.